about solar eclipses. Yes, I'm an observatory builder and long-time amateur astronomer, and I actually got. Wait, I need to learn to know how it is. Yeah, I actually got into this just because of a book. I hope it works. Yeah, here it is. This is the book that my mother gave to me when I was 6 years old. And it's about astronomy because she saw that I am fascinated by everything that was on TV with stars and moon landing. And there was one page about solar eclipses, and this was one thing that I wanted to see in my life once. And then I read the information, 1999, there should be something in Germany. And I was waiting the whole time for that. But actually, it showed that I can even make it before. And these red stars showed where I have been for chasing solar eclipses since today. So I went across the world once to see the solar eclipses. Yeah, first one was Mexico 1991. Even before the 1999 in Germany, I got the chance to. Have some friends in USA, and I got the chance to travel down there, which was an amazing way down all the Baja California. We had set up our camp in the desert, and so I saw the first solar eclipse with some very nice American guys and some German friends. It was quite an adventure at this time, without internet, without cell phone, without everything, to go down there to Mexico. And after that, I decided to dig into prominences because I saw first time a prominence, this huge gas clouds over the solar surface, and I did everything to make it possible to see it by my own. And because I was not like rich at this time, which I'm still not be, but I could not afford a telescope, I built most of it by my own. And so I learned the techniques which are necessary to do solar observation. And this is the reason why we have here a solar telescope, which I brought over from Germany to show you the wonders of the sun. Yeah, and with my little observatory on my balcony, I did quite some amazing photos and quite some amazing, let's say, discoveries. Discoveries for me about technology, about how to handle things. Yeah, and then the Germany 1990 eclipse happened, which I was waiting for since almost 30 years. So I was very much thrilled, and in my hometown I did a big event, which was also on TV, which was also in the newspapers. It was everywhere, and we had 6,000 people in front of me on a big place in our hometown. And you know what happened? It clouded out right in the moment before the eclipse. During the eclipse, it got a big rain shower. Everybody need to go to parking rows or somewhere to hide. And directly after the eclipse, the sun came back. So this was a big fail. This was not what I expected. And this thrilled me even more to chase eclipses. Then I decided, fuck, I get you. And the next time I had the chance was 2006. It was very close in Turkey. I traveled to Turkey, which is to Konya, which is a very, very religious area. I really needed to adapt to this. Very nice people, but you need to accept the rules, let's say it like that, how to handle everything. And we were going to a very remote place. Many people were on the beaches in Turkey and the tourist areas. I was going to a mountaintop close to Syria. We even found some remnants of wars up there, and we were chasing the eclipse from up there. And that eclipse was the moment when I saw something that I have not expected. We have had a thin layer of dust, like here we have clear sky now, but like you see at the sun right now, around the sun right now, this is how it looked like. And all of a sudden, because we were so high, we could see how the shadow changed. We saw the complete corona, like all the time, right? But we could see how the shadow changed, and we saw actually here the shadow of the moon going through the atmosphere, traveling through the atmosphere. This was totally unexpected. And then I thought, okay, there's much more to discover around solar eclipses than only the corona and only the prominences. There is something going on in the atmosphere which is not very well known, or nobody looks at it because the corona is so beautiful. And during the next eclipse, I decided to look a little bit more on these effects. I traveled to China in 2008 with a friend of mine in the northernmost region close to Mongolia, which is now very well known because the old Uyghur tribe is living there, which are old Turkish. It's an old Turkish tribe, and it's their land. And it gets more and more under influence of Beijing. They try to bring the Chinese culture in this land, and by this way, they really try very hard, and the people feel very bad there. I saw it at this time, and in the meantime, it has gone even worse. We have had a hard time to go there. We have been checked by military every time when we were on the street, and we talked to the people there. And at this time, they are still fighting against this by, for example, not accepting the Beijing time. They are far away from Beijing, and they need to have the same time on their clock than in Beijing, which is not true, and because they are in another time zone. And so at home, they have different times than on the streets. So this is how they fight against this occupancy with their means that they have. Wait, I'll continue. Here we are. Yeah, this was where we landed in Beijing. You can barely see the sun in Beijing, even if it's high in the sky. It's not like Black Rock City, where you see the sun shining very bright. There's so much dust in the air that the sun is always yellow, and you can look at it, not like here, you get blinded. You can really look at it without any problem. It's orange. And this is because of the heavy light pollution in the big Chinese cities that I have seen also in other Chinese cities. Yeah, this is how the Uyghur tribes are living in remote places, in little houses, and yeah, also in the mountains which are very close to Mongolia. We were going up to these mountains to see the solar eclipse, and we were happy again. We had a beautiful corona, and we even did some movies. I hope it will work here. I'm not sure, where you could see with a wide angle lens how the shadow of the sun was traveling over our observing place. This was the second time we gathered this shadow effect of the sun. Anyway, we saw this shadow effect again, and then we decided to take more care on this, and with every time we have been on new solar eclipses, the camera technology advanced, and we take use of bigger sensors, of better optics. Next time it was also in China, but this time in another region. We have been first in Shanghai. It was announced in Shanghai region there would be good condition, and all of a sudden Shanghai was clouded out completely. And unfortunately, I have business contacts in China, and one guy that I know said, okay, let's go inside country. There's good place. We order tickets and we go last minute. And so we ended up in Wuhan, where now, as you know, Wuhan became very, very prominent right now because the coronavirus expanded from there. Yeah, I've been there before the shit happened, and fortunately. And yeah, Wuhan is a big city. Oops, I was too fast. And billions of people working there, and we traveled out there in the garden of a Chinese woman in the rice fields, and we put our camera equipment there together with our Chinese business contact. And again, we had an eclipse with some shadow effects, as you can see here on the side of the photo. The clouds are not that bad. I always try to escape clouds, but since I saw first time these shadow effects on the atmosphere, I'm quite up for clouds every time. Here you see it very good. What you see here on the left hand, down on the left side, this is the shadow of the moon. You can even see the curve. It's projected on our atmosphere. So, next up was Australia. It should be in the outback. And that was fascinating for me because I always wanted to see Australia, the outback. We were going with a rental car straight all the ways to the outback, and it was an interesting ride in Australia. You could see all animals that live there. You can see them on the streets because the big trucks, they kill the kangaroos and they are lying there. You can see almost any animals from Australia on the side of the roads there. There are so many animals, and the trucks don't take care. They're right through. And yeah, we were sitting in the middle of the outback between ants, masses of ants, We camped there. That was no fun. But anyway, you have to do something. When you are up for a goal, you do it. Yeah, we had a fascinating eclipse. On a faraway hill, we saw these trees, and the sun went up at 6 o'clock in the morning, partially eclipsed. And this is one of the most beautiful photos that I ever got from solar eclipse, to see the sun over these trees. And also again the wonderful corona, which has changed at this time. The corona gets more round when the solar activity gets low. When the solar activity increases, it gets different forms. This was also interesting. And we also saw prominences again on the limb of the sun's surface. This is the only way to see these prominences without a special telescope like we have here. Only solar eclipses, there's no other way to see natural prominences. Oops, come back. Yeah, I hope the video works. This is actually a video from the solar eclipse with a GoPro cam. And again, it doesn't work. Anyway, we need to work with it. There you can see how the sun rises and then how the shadows falls over the landscape. And at the very end of the solar eclipses, we thought, what's that? Cows came in, and we escaped last minute with our camera equipment so that the cows didn't meet us. The way back from Australia was quite fascinating. We stopped by in New Zealand. This is White Island. It's a volcano close to New Zealand. Another hobby of mine is volcano chasing. Next time I will have a talk about volcano chasing, because by chance I have seen from the very first day the eruption on La Palma, and I have been on some other volcanoes, sneaked around police and saw the eruptions very close by, and did photos and videos. This is something I do next year perhaps. And yeah, White Island is also quite famous. You can enter the island, and I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago some people died there because all of a sudden, when they were on the island, an explosion happened and the volcano did some dust and also some lava. And yeah, these guys are, you don't know what happens when you are up on a volcano. You never know. Yeah, this is the way how to chase volcanoes. You need to cover very good, and you need a gas mask, or you will lie on the ground very soon. This is very, very important. At the moment when you release the gas mask and you take a little breath, it hurts so much in your lungs you cannot imagine. It's really, you cannot breathe when you are so close to the gas of the volcanoes. Yeah, a completely different one was in 2014 on Svalbard. Svalbard is the closest island to the North Pole, and so we expected some cold. And this was an eclipse that promised to be very fascinating because it was in pure ice, and I was quite sure I will see some effects on this ice and on the shadows in the atmosphere. Yeah, we were very thrilled for this. And all of a sudden a German TV team asked us, they need some experts to come with them. They don't know how to behave and what to do. So okay, I took care of them, and we joined them, and we got the equipment together because it was fucking cold. Yeah, this is Svalbard, covered with ice completely, and around, even the sea is frozen. And yeah, I can only tell you in degrees in Celsius, the normal temperature that we experienced was minus 25 degrees in Celsius, and this was really fucking cold. You need to prepare very carefully. This was our tent. This was a science camp. We joined some scientists, and we camped on the pure ice at minus 25 degrees Celsius. Yeah, if you are not prepared the right way, if you don't have the right sleeping bag for extreme adventures, you are fucked. Completely. This is so cold that you need to take your water bottle with you inside of your sleeping bag, or in the next morning you don't have anything to drink. This is how you have to handle things. And yeah, it was quite an adventure to come over there and set up our equipment. You should not take your camera out in your tent, because once it warms up, you will have moisture on it, and then you go out and it freezes again, your camera is dead. And the next thing is you need to take your batteries all the time with you, because when you don't have the battery with you and it's lying on the ice, it's dead. So the only way to deal with that is the batteries in the pocket and cameras out of the tent all of the time. And then at the end, hope that it works. Then you never know what happens with the camera under these extreme conditions. They're made for normal temperatures and not for that. But actually it worked. Yeah, this was how I was looking like in the tent. Very nice sleeping like that. And we have extreme sleeping bags and yeah. Yeah, this was a fascinating landscape of Svalbard when you are walking around there in these temperatures and the sun is going down. You have the ice surface below you. It's quite fascinating. And we were lucky again. We saw the sun rising and over the ice shield of Svalbard, an interesting effect because the sun was so low, we had the impression the sun is much bigger than it actually was. We call it the moon illusion. You have also the moon illusion when the moon is very low over the horizon. The eye gives the information to the brain that there is a remote thing, and it compares it with houses around or with landscape around, and this round thing is looking huge at this moment. So your brain fucks you up. And for us, it was amazing to see the solar eclipse with the moon illusion together. And during this eclipse, I actually did a movie of something that I was not prepared that I will see it, because before we did the solar corona, and before the corona I saw something on the ground. I saw the ground was moving like on an LSD trip. You you do like something, you're standing around there and the whole floor was moving, and I was completely shocked by this. I know that there's an effect called flying shadows. It gets produced when sun rays goes through the atmosphere and the atmosphere is moving. You have the same effect when you're going into a swimming pool and look down, then you see waves on the floor of the swimming pool. It's actually the same effect, but done by our atmosphere. And so I decided to change my complete photo plans and point the camera to the ground. And because the same effect was expected when the moon's leaving again and the sun comes out again. And I did this movie and it worked out very well. The only problem with this movie was I had to change settings on my camera and I had gloves on and I was not fast enough with the gloves, so I decided to take off the gloves and work with my camera. And after a minute my fingers hurt that much. You cannot imagine. I was crying because of the cold. The camera was damn cold and my fingers got frozen, and it took 3 months to recover. It took actually 3 months. It was, the nerves got fucked up in the fingers because of the cold. It took 3 months to recover. It recovered actually when I got an electric shock while installing an observatory, but this is a different story. Yeah, this, I have the movie here, but I know that you cannot see it. It is impossible under these conditions. It needs a big screen when you see how slowly it gets brighter, and then you see these waves flying over the floor. I'm very sad that I cannot show it here. No, it did not show up. It gets brighter and brighter then, and you see black waves going over the floor. A German science journalist, a very prominent one, saw it and say, okay, we have videos of this effect worldwide, but what you have done is a new standard. And nobody else did it. There were hundreds of eclipse chasers around to see this eclipse, and everybody was looking at the corona, and nobody was looking to the ground. I was the only one that was looking to the ground and did such a video. Yeah, so this is the way that, when you were a child and you have something that catches you, interested you, and all of a sudden you make a kind of, new science standard video. Yeah, next one and last one was Indonesia 2016. Again, a completely different region. It was an island. You know Borneo? Borneo is a big island in Indonesia, a very beautiful one with a lot of forest, rainforest, and you can see these carnivorous plants there everywhere that eat flies, and they are getting so big actually that they can eat a mouse or birds. I saw very big ones. I was not expecting that they can get so big. Here are small ones. And a lot of other animals. You were on this mountaintop, but we were going to Mount Kinabalu, which is like 4,000 meters high. We were climbing up to see the surrounding, And this is the only mountain in this area which is that high, and you can go through all vegetation zones from down below the rainforest to up where it is quite cold and where there is only there's only stone and nothing else. And when you are down on the island, there are living people in the water in front of the island. There are regions where they are really living here. You see how they put the sticks on and then the house is on top. You don't recognize this immediately. I was looking out on the sea and thought, what's that? And then we hired a boat and we were going there, and they were quite surprised to see us there, and the little children were playing for us and were crying for us, and this was really fun. I was not aware that there are people really living on the sea, in their houses. This first time that I saw this. Then we were going to Ternate Island, which is a very small island. There is no tourism, and that's always the biggest fun when there's no tourism. But a short excursus, how we find these spots, why we are going to such remote places. This is where solar eclipses occurred between 2001 and 2020. You see, it's everywhere in the world. And then we pick the most interesting ones and look at temperature curves and weather curves, where it's raining much, where it's not raining much, and then we dig out a spot which is not too much touristy, and this way we found Ternate Island. Then we look exactly, because the shadow of the moon is only like 50 kilometers in diameter in size, so we need to come in the middle of this to see the eclipse in full length. And then you get cards from the NASA where you can see where the shadow is traveling over the island, and this way we find our spots. And it's all time a surprise. These are always spots where you would never travel for your holidays. You come there by chance, and at the end you have a very interesting experience to see a new culture and to see a new region and everything that you do not expect, like this one. They made a festival for the solar eclipse with music and everything, and when they discovered we were the only European guys in the crowd, they came to us and say, hey, where do you come from, and join us. And we were invited in lots of private houses, and we even got an invitation to the local radio station where we could talk about everything what we are doing. Yeah, these are the experiences you get. Then we hired this little boat going to Ternate. This is Ternate Island, beautiful volcano island. So we are sitting there in the grass and waiting for the eclipse. After the eclipse, I had discovered there was a very big spider web with a huge spider right beside me, and I don't know what the spider could have done to me, but I hope they did nothing. Martin was hiding beside a house wall, and what is now going on? Where are we? So we saw the eclipse, and beautiful prominences again. This is how the shadow of the moon is lying over the earth. You see around the whole horizon, you see this orange glow, which is like in the evening, like right now. And the birds get irritated. They think it's now evening and they start singing. And 5 minutes later, when the eclipse is over, they start singing again their morning song. So the whole nature is irritated from these eclipses. And wind starts blowing during the eclipse. This is a time lapse that I did with several shots to show how the sun gets smaller and smaller, and then you have the corona, and then it goes out again. It's very, very fascinating event of our nature, such a solar eclipse. There are three effects or three natural phenomena that I like most, that I think are most interesting in the world. The one are volcanoes, the next one are solar eclipses, and third one are northern lights. You need to see northern lights. You need to go up to the Arctic Circle and see them. These are amazing. They change the whole sky. It gets green and everything moves very fast. You need to see it. Yeah, this was the last one, and from that one there is a good photo existing where you see the shadow of the moon is on Earth, and I was in the middle of this shadow to see the effects of the solar eclipse. So what's next? Argentina 2020 was not possible because of Corona. In 2024 you have one in USA, and you should not miss this. And in 2027 there's a very interesting one in Africa where I will for sure go. Another place on Earth. I have been in Africa, but this one will also be very interesting. That's it. Thank you for your attention. I hope it was interesting for you. Thank you. If you have questions, feel free to ask, but most of you may